Alright, I don't have any preamble or anything. I'm just gonna try and send you this game in 20 seconds. Monster Hunter World is an action role-playing, hack-and-slashing, animal rights revoking game. All about hunting down giant creatures in grand battles to fashion their body parts into gear. It has one of the best feeling combat systems I have ever played, and some of the best weapon and armor designs, period. All complemented by incredible monsters that are between the lines of real prehistoric animals, medieval folk monsters, and complete bullshit! It's a one-of-a-kind gem that is held back by some idiotic design decisions that I hope will be fixed in a true successor. My goal with this video is to convince people who either never played it or have played it but fell out of it to give World a spin, cause there is still nothing like it today. At least not yet. The story of World begins with you are John Hunter with their sidekick Kitty. You are a part of the 5th fleet of explorers who are traveling to a land that remains mostly uncharted even after decades of expeditions. Then a mountain emerges under your ship and walks towards the island. And your cat dies. Welcome to the new world. Kill some lizards, then a big lizard, and now the actual game begins. All of this takes around an hour of gameplay, of which 15 minutes are unskippable cutscenes and trailing segments. Which would be fine if, you know, they were good. But then you realize that characters don't even have names, so you're 100% justified to never read a single text box from now on. Thankfully, after the 5th mission, the story and tutorials will take a backseat and the game finally opens up. Monster Hunter World's gameplay consists of battling big monsters, foraging for supplies to survive the big monsters, and the most controversial part of this game, planning. Anyone who introduces any Monster Hunter game as Shadow the Colossus but more Japanese is knowingly lying to you. Cause it's a bit harder to sell them if you want us to describe what happens in them. You find an armor that you really want, but you need 3 goblinoid ass hairs to forge it. Before you go out to find a goblinoid, you really should look up what are its weaknesses. Then equip your best weapons and armor for the job, then organize and craft your consumables, then choose one meal out of a dozen for stat bonuses, or make your own, and then you are good to go. If you're someone who hates dicking around in different menus, then this game isn't for you. Monster Hunter at its core is an action RPG, and it doesn't water down that fact like every other AAA porridge game that are just eeping off Witcher 3.
Geralt of Rivia.
Wait.
Witcher.
What? 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 Instead of being an action game with watered down RPG mechanics, Monster Hunter goes balls deep into both genres. The quickest way I can put it is, imagine having to do an 8th grade math test to get better at Devil May Cry, and I really enjoy this formula. Every time I go to hunt a new monster, it's like the montage from How to Train Your Dragon encapsulated. Except I'm not befriending the dragons, I'm just putting them where they belong. Into the fucking soil! Pre-planning will always be hard to sell to new people. The variety in weapons and armors is enough to make an MMO fan blush. Special monsters or locales require special equipment. Did you know that bowguns and even the fucking bugs have a separate upgrade tree? The amount of choices you can make is so daunting that even hundreds of hours later, my brain can still get soft-locked. The most important part of your loadout are your armor pieces. These give you resistances and weaknesses for certain elements and also give you passive upgrades. Upgrades like evade extensions or earplugs are incredibly useful. Meanwhile, you also have stuff like faster eating, resistance against minor wind pressure, and mushroom consumption. Planning is and always will be an integral part of the franchise, and I do agree that having slight autism does help to make it more enjoyable, but it's also the part that gives the Monster Hunter the depth to really get sucked into it. It's optional enough that you don't need to spend 20 minutes before every hunt, but it's prevalent enough to sell the fantasy of a hunter, studying its prey and preparing its tools for the hunt. You don't need to whip out the spreadsheets for this game as much as people want you to believe. But you gotta whip out those skills! Combat is the meat of any Monster Hunter game. There are people who like to compare Dark Souls' combat to Monster Hunter because you can roll and have a stamina bar. Wow, incredible game analysis. Thank you, Voodoo sounding essay boy. Here's your Patreon money. My tip for anyone who plays World for the first time is to beat the shit out of this pole for like 15 fucking minutes and try out every single weapon type. There are 12 types of weapons in World, and they all feel like playing a completely different game with unique mechanics and goals. To name a few, Great Sword, you're slow as a dump truck, but hit like a dump truck. Sword and Shield, medium damage and short range, but you can use items without sheathing, making you the perfect trapper and healer bitch. Longsword and Dual Blade, weeb! Bowgun and Heavy Bowgun. Lance, block the world and poke the world. Gun Lance, poke the world with a vengeance! When you start fighting in this game, your first thoughts are probably going to be feels and like and the word ass. Attacks are heavy and slow. Even the quickest hitting weapons in the game are built around longer, high commitment moves. This means that you always need to be close to the monster like stink on shit while dodging and learning its attacks. And that is the keyword to this game. Learning.
Get the wall! Azt nem látok, még nem belül.
Most, egy csapás kellett.
Mindketten rábasztunk itt, kussos.
Every monster has a set of unique behaviors and weaknesses, while also having universal ones. If you hit a monster's head with a big ass attack while it's charging at you, it's going to be dazed and drooling for the next couple seconds. Most monsters are just huge ass cats and are incredibly territorial, so if two of them meet, they will start beating up each other. Not to mention that on top of all this, there is a wealth of tech that the game never tells you. If you time the Great Sword's shoulder bash, you can go through roars. You can make item loadouts in your inventory. You can speed up the questboard animations by holding R1. There is a mod to mute the handler. There's no avoiding it. The main campaign kinda sucks.
I believe I might cry.
The structure of it is actually fine. The plot of exploring an untamed wilderness and reuniting its exploding fleets against a common threat is pretty neat. As the story goes on, it introduces stronger and stronger monsters and locales, which is also really cool. The problem is that, 1. None of the characters have any personality or even a fucking name. 2. Aside from the mountain dragon winning our first confrontation, nothing of interest happens in the plot. And 3. The handler is getting on my nerves. This results in every cutscene that isn't introducing a new monster becoming boring and tedious. So of course you cannot skip any of them. The only cutscene that you can skip are the canteen animations. But... why would you ever want to skip these? Well, if the campaign is crappy, then at least the multiplayer experience should be good, right? 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 I swear to God, whoever implemented multiplayer hasn't touched a game nor a woman since the PS2 era. There is no party system. Instead, you can join other players via mission board. You can even join main story missions, but you must have done that one already, meaning that if you and your friends started playing at the same time, you can't play through the campaign together. And even if your friend is on a mission that you have already done, if it has a single fucking cutscene, you cannot join them until they have watched it. Have I mentioned that you can't skip these? Expeditions are this game's free roaming mode. This would be prime material for multiplayer. So of course there is no way to join or invite people to it. To play expeditions with your friends, you either do an investigation, since those are joinable from the board, then after you finish it, all of you must select the continue expedition option. Alternatively, you can use an SOS flare so anyone including randoms can join you. Why couldn't they just make a simple party or lobby system like any other game? And we're done. Those are my biggest complaints of this game that I have spent over 100 hours with. Every positive I said so far in this video about the combat and the planning has been a part of the series from the very beginning. So what makes World so much more special than any other entry in this series? The world part of it. World, more than any other game in this franchise, doubles down on making you believe that you are exploring an actual wild ecosystem, and the monsters are a natural part of it. The best part is that these details aren't just there for people making things you didn't notice you shitbrain videos, but can affect the gameplay and the hunts themselves. Locales are filled with shortcuts and different movement options, which creates optimal routes and high grounds to use during battles. Every locale is full of different environmental hazards that you can use to get the upper hand during a battle. Even some of the smaller monsters will attack larger ones if they have an advantage. These locales are also filled with small animals and bugs that all can be trapped or harvested. Not to mention that the game rewards you for interacting with the world via research points that are used to automate the gathering of materials and decking out your kitten's equipment. These elements help Monster Hunter from becoming Monster Fighter. But even with all of these advantages, it is inevitable that you run into a wall. A monster that just kicks your shit in, one that just completely fucks you up. And to quote PunkDuck's video, because he summarized this part better than I could, eventually, after many tries, you beat its ass. So you do it again. And again. You start noticing, oh, I got hit way less this time. Oh, I'm actually getting faster at this. Oh, I'm actually kicking its ass. Because despite this being an RPG and having so many extrinsic rewards, it's all on you to learn your weapon, to understand your monster, and to know your surroundings. And that's when the game just clicks with you. And that's why I love it. On a more personal note, I started playing this game during the COVID lockdown. I was aimlessly depressed like most teenagers during it, and I'm not lying when I say that hunting down my first engineette and cutting off its tail during it was one of the brief moments when I felt that all was right with the world. World constantly pits you against seemingly impossible odds, and it's all on you to come out on top.
But I'm not done yet!
Hopefully by this point my syshypnosis worked and you checked out World's store page. If you did, your elf eyes might have caught a small little expansion that costs more than the actual game. Besides the one moment and the pre-Xbox Live multiplayer, another big issue with World is its lackluster endgame. Capcom noticed this and took it literally. So they made an entire fucking new game for the end? Monster Hunter Iceborne to Meltdown is World. but more. So much more that over 3/4 of the footage you've seen in this video has been content from Iceborne. You get a new base full of little guys and a grandma, a shit ton of new monsters and gear, and
Hey, don't worry. I can fill in for you and help while you're gone. For the time being, allow me to be your handler. Sound good?
a new handler who is actually tolerable and isn't the gremlinoid creature who takes the credit for my hunts? For new mechanics, you get the ability to use your slinger while your weapon is unsheathed, and the clutch claw. These open up a flood of new techniques, like wall bangs and the coolest thing in the fucking world. These are all needed for the new endgame raid bosses that can yield huge rewards. The new techniques also become necessary because Iceborne adds some of the most anus-crushing, consent-form-ignoring, spine-shatteringly strong monsters in the game. You also get rideable pets that are... Várj, hívom a Toximot. Na, még már elindulna? Na? Gyite?
Szerintem maradj le róla.
Na.
Nem kapott elég borvalót.
Menjél már! Miért nem megy? Miért nem megy? They can't all be hits. I don't have much more to say about Iceborne. It's one of the biggest expansions I've ever played that isn't for an MMO. Like, during my playthrough, there were 2 moments where I went out loud. Wait, this isn't the end? There's more? That should be its fucking tagline. If you have finished World and enjoyed it, there is no good reason to not get Iceborne. It's one of the most content-rich expansions I've ever played, and it really should be because it's 50 fucking bucks. Monster Hunter World is easily one of the best games. I had the pleasure of laying my spindly sticky gamer fingers on it. To this day, it's one of the best looking, sounding and feeling action games. It's one of the best examples of how to combine action and stat management to create a punchy and satisfying combat and a great gameplay loop. Monster Hunter Rise, the game released after World and was made by a different team, is fucking great in its own merits, but it lacks the slower and the visceral nature of Monster Hunter's combat and the attention to detail World has to immerse you in it. The next game in the series, Wilds, so far looks like a quasi-sequel to World, and the more I see of it, the less I'm able to express how hyped I am. Unless Capcoms it up, Wilds might be one of the best action games of this decade, and if it will reach those heights, then we should remember where most of its ideas came from. Hey, thank you for watching this video that took me way too long to make. This project has been in the oven for like 3 or 4 months now, and it took me a bit to make this one because, you know, unlike most YouTubers, I actually have a meaningful job and a workplace. A huge shout out to all my friends who helped me making this video and playing this game together. It's like, I can't stop gushing about Monster Hunter World. It's one of the best multiplayer games I've ever played in my life. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe and all that stuff. I am currently sitting under my table because I didn't have time to set up the pillow fortress to muffle the echoes in my room. So yeah, thank you and stay safe. Oh!